Welcome to an enlightened hour of interactive talk. This is Guided Spirit Conversations with host Marla Goldberg. In this program, we spotlight guests from all over the globe who have helped others change their lives and will provide you with the tips, tools, and techniques that you need to help you make a difference in your own life. Now, here is Marla Goldberg.
Welcome to Guided Spirit Conversations. I'm your host, Marla Goldberg, and I'm really thrilled because I have a very special person in my heart coming on as a guest today, Dr. AlixSandra Parness. So above and beyond the fact that AlixSandra was the first person who took me by the hand to lead me down my spiritual path as I went to her mystery school. At the time, it was called Inner Focus. Now it's the AlixSandra Parness School for Soul-Directed Advanced Energy Healing and the Mystery School for Divine Mastery. AlixSandra offers a 4-year certification program, a postgraduate program, as well as introductory and basic training in the art of energy healing. That's where I learned my first 14 modalities. And above all, AlixSandra is a channel for divine knowledge and wisdom. Her informative style is experiential, humorous, and on the leading edge of humanity's awakening consciousness. AlixSandra is a clairvoyant healer and master teacher with the ability to find, hold, and lift group energy and bring the group to higher levels of consciousness. Her connection with the realms of divine love and ascended masters allows for spontaneous healing and enlightened information that uplift the consciousness of individuals and reveal soul lessons in a gentle, firm, and empowering way. It is impossible to experience this woman without being moved. And that is the truth. Welcome, AlixSandra.
Thank you. Oh, it's so wonderful to see you and to be with you again.
Oh, it's always great to be in your energy because I always get so much from it. I know it sounds selfish, but now everybody else will be able to share this energy because we're going to talk about some amazing topics.
Yes, we are.
So I want to start by talking about what's going on today. Before we got on, we were talking about Seth. We were talking about things you had learned back in 71. Long time ago, over 40 years ago.
Right.
Where Seth was talking about, and I'm going to lead this to you to continue.
Yeah. Back then in 1971, none of us knew anything. You know, we were listening to channels. And I always had an inner understanding that if something felt right and I got curious enough about it, it didn't sound weird to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And Jane Roberts, just a simple woman, lived in Elmira, and I used to live in Vestal, 1 hour out of Elmira. So everything was like meant to be. Back then, we had a lot of abortion was big on the radar and all this kind of stuff. Where I want to go today, we talked about before, and that is what's happening in nature. One of the most important things Seth talked to us about, actually, it was all the tornadoes in the Bible Belt. He said, why do you think most of the tornadoes are in these areas? Back then, we had some pretty devastating tornadoes. And he said, the earth is a being, which a lot of us know, and it has an emotional field. And when humanity does not allow themselves to cleanse the emotional field, and by that I mean they hold on to anger, pushing against things, and not knowing how to love. That's one side, and the other side is not having any fun. Nature has to cleanse for us. And so when we look at today and the pandemic and everything that's going on in the arena of politics and everything else, there is nothing but rage. You're either for or against, and there's no middle road. So everybody's pushing for their agenda. When you watch those fires, you've got fires here, you've got hurricanes here, you've got high winds. I'm in the desert. We have 40-mile-an-hour winds almost every day. Every element is saying, wake up, humanity. You need to have more social justice. And we can go right to that because that's the other end of the stick. Where's your heart with all of this that's going on?
Let's do it. Let's go. Let's follow that train that you're going on.
You know, I have to say, I was in shock with what happened after George Floyd was killed.
Absolutely.
I had no clue. Look at me. There's no dark skin here. I was born and brought up in Vestal, New York. I never saw a Black person, ever. When I moved to New Rochelle, and I tell this story because this is the ignorance of the white, you know, I don't even want to go further than that, white people, is that if you never have seen, you don't know. New Rochelle High School had lots and lots of Black people. And I'm 14, innocent as all get out, right? I go to the principal's office and I sit there like a dodo saying, oh, you must have exchange students from Africa. I never got over it because who knew, who understood, who of us who look like you and I ever understood what these Black families have had to go through? I listened to Al Roker on the Today Show talking about how he has to worry if his kid is going to come home and how many times they get that changed me. That did something to me. And it did something to me.
There's a lot of ignorance. We don't know a lot. We know what is shared in history. I personally was raised by an African-American woman who was closer to me in some respects than my mother was.
Oh.
So I come from a different perspective because
Right.
I think I turned out differently because I had so much of her influence in my life. And
Right.
I say that with reverence and with love and respect. And I remember I had gone to a woman something or other, and I was sharing that this woman was like they were talking about who was your biggest influence. And at the time, this woman was one of the biggest influences in my life. And there was another woman there who was African-American, and she got her panties in a twist and got really upset about that. And I couldn't understand why, because I wasn't demeaning. I wasn't putting her down. I wasn't, to this day, I think about her with love and talk to her,
Sure.
knowing that she's on the other side at this point. So, but yeah, I understand what you're saying. And our Black school was one of the first in Chicago that started with the busing. So we had in our high school, Black kids with us.
Well, this is part of what my title is about, the curious nature of the unknown, because you and I were just having this conversation. It's like, I got curious after that. I started listening. And then when, can I remember his name? The beautiful Black guy that they did the whole, I can't think of his name right now, Lewis.
Oh.
Well, Laurel and I were doing our talks on conversations during this time. And one of the things that happened after the George Floyd, and I think I sent this to you, my higher self started to teach me about how they're always breathing with us. So then I got into this thing where I wanted to say, I'm breathing with you. You've got a t-shirt that says I can't breathe. And I'm saying, I have wised up. I understand now. And I want you to know that I'm breathing with you. So it's gotten to be a big thing. I'm actually trying to write a song about it. I've done a couple of poems. And it's not anywhere yet, but I still feel that's where I'm at, is I want any of these arenas I go into. And in school, that was always my forte. It was always, I am with you. Whatever you're going through, I'm here with you. I didn't have those words, I'm breathing with you yet, but it's just the way I've been all my life. That's that humanitarian thing, I think, that goes beyond the personal into a greater view of what's actually going on.
I understand what you're saying so totally, about letting people know that you're supporting them, that you're not, afraid of them,
No.
because of the color of their skin. And as I like to say, I don't care if you polka dot striped herringbone, if
Right.
you're a human being the way I'm a human being, we are all born the same. When we get sick, we react the same. When we bleed, it's the same
Right.
color. And
Right.
there is no difference other than the fact that, yes, many of these people started with slavery in the United States.
Yes.
And some got, got away. And if you listen to, I saw that movie, oh my God. Oh my, I know I'm having that scene.
Yeah,
in my head, right?
I know. Because your thoughts are working so fast.
So
Yeah.
quick. But the woman who helped with the train, getting slaves out of the train, and
Oh, yes, yes.
and it was just brilliant and heartbreaking. And when you see the scars on the people, because they weren't treated as such. And I actually read something this morning about Tina Knowles when Beyonce was born, and she said something about, well, this is spelled wrong because Beyonce is actually her maiden name
Oh,
and Tina Knowles' maiden name. And so the nurse said, "You're lucky you have a birth certificate at all." And what was amazing is because
yeah.
back in the South that, Black people weren't given birth certificates because they weren't given enough value.
Right.
And today, but to have something even 20, I mean, how old is Beyonce? 35 maybe?
Something around in there.
But I mean, that's pretty modern time for someone to say something, in my opinion, like
Yeah.
that. So the abuses are huge that happen to, but but a lot of minorities, Blacks, yes, but Hispanic as well, and
Yes.
certain Asian countries. And my feeling is all the way around that equality is really important. The way people are treated, treat them with respect because they deserve it, because they're on this earth, until
Right.
they show that they don't deserve to be treated with respect. It's like giving a student an A until they until they
Yeah.
lower their A into an F. Here's the A,
Absolutely.
keep it there. That kind
Well,
of
you remember our last talk was about the chakra system.
yes.
And again, we're back to the third chakra that thinks the people that think they need to have power over other people so they can feel good about themselves. And you can't get into your heart then. There's no heart there, because if I'm trying to bully you into believing my way, there's no heart there. There's no humanity. There's nothing that says, I care about you.
Right.
Don't care about anybody except getting what you want. And that was a big part of our school and what we really were able to do on a very broad way with all those people that would come in and out. It was wonderful. I look back on those years and realize we tried to buy the Ahara Center in Wisconsin, but it was just not meant to be. And I remember my Jesus saying to me, I never had a church. I went to the people. And then I understood that it was more advantageous to go to where people are that want to know what we had to teach. And even today, I'm thinking to myself, I'm going up next week to visit my daughter in Boise. She's up in Boise, Idaho. I said, how's the air quality? My biggest worry is that we can't sit outside. They're in a red zone because the smoke is so heavy up there. Well, and then me, I don't care. It's her birthday. I'm going to visit her. But those kinds of things, I think that anyone listening to us, reading your books, reading my book, have to see this broad understanding that you have a very important part in shifting where humanity is these days. And you gotta understand that it's got to be in a place of absolute, you're okay, I'm okay. What are those? Remember those from years ago?
Yeah.
What you think is your business, what I think is my business.
Right.
Abraham told us a long time ago when everybody was upset about the election 4 years ago, it's none of your business. You have nothing to do with it. Go vote. But honestly, that just relieved me of having to be mad or upset about anything, whatever it was. And not only with that situation, but many others that have come along, even with the George Floyd thing, I had to watch my own feelings that I did not get judgmental or upset. The man murdered him. I mean, we watched it. It was on a video.
It's horrible, horrible.
And that's not up to me, though, see, to judge that one way or the other. That's up to me to learn that you need to have take responsibility, and there will be consequences.
And it's holding energy and sending love to, everybody who's, and it doesn't make a difference if you knew George Floyd or not. If you feel kindred in any way, shape, or form, there's love sent to you. There's,
That's right.
space is
Absolutely.
being held for you. But what I won't hold space for, I shouldn't say it that way, but those who are purposely looting and taking people's lives away by burning their businesses and looting, and because that has nothing to do with George Floyd. That has to do with profiting for yourself and hurting people. My husband was in Kenosha during those riots recently.
Oh, really?
And there was a gentleman, African-American, who's screaming at the people saying, don't burn down my business. You're burning 40 years of my life away, 40 years of my life. And they did it anyway. And, so they're hurting their own people as well. But AlixSandra, let's pick this up on the other side. We're going to be right back and talk more about humanity and curiosity.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, great job. We're all clear. Back in a couple.
Yeah, Gary, it was terrible because what they were doing systematically was going from downtown Kenosha to neighborhood and demolishing these neighborhoods. And you overheard somebody when they were doing that to Michigan Avenue, where they said, take anything you want. They have insurance. And it's like, that's a violation. I mean, on so many levels, on the human level, but let's talk spiritual.
Right.
I mean, that's a huge violation. And you know what? You may think you might get away with it, but the reality of it is
payback.
Yeah.
What goes around comes around every single time.
And I have to tell you, when there's people who have done stuff to me in my life, this is what I rest on. I don't have to be there. I don't have to see it.
No.
I know that justice will be justice. And I don't have to project anything. I don't have to lower my energy or my vibration to address any of it.
Well, this has actually happened. I don't know if I talked about it during the Heart Summit, but the day before I was ready to leave to go down to Asheville, an old student from Canada sent me a horrible letter, just horrible, telling me how I had ruined her life and done all this. No return address, no nothing. And when I got that letter and I read it, I knew who it was coming from. And this is a person I spent tremendous amount of time with. She moved from Boston to Vancouver and all of that. And I sat there and I said, I knew right away that it was a test. Okay, am I gonna fall off my high horse that I was on coming into that summit, or am I gonna just look at it and say, I guess you really had to do that, and it's okay with me because none of what you said is true, in my experience. So that's a big issue for people a lot of times, you know.
It is, and I keep in mind, and this phrase has been going in my mind, but it's none of my business what you think of me.
No, it isn't. That's right. And that's what I mean about what's going on the political scene and all that kind of stuff. It's going to be what it's going to be. The outcome has already happened in a way. And I just have to vote my conscience and what I believe in. But it's not up to me to make anybody else think the way I think.
Exactly. I can't tell you how many people in 2016 unfriended me. I mean, and it was like, you can't be my friend anymore because you don't believe what I believe. It's like, well, what a boring existence.
I know. Well, that's the whole thing. That's the beauty of life is that, look where you went, look where I go. You know, it's a
Absolutely.
beautiful thing.
I hear
All right,
Max.
sorry to jump in. We're coming back in about 12 seconds.
Great, thanks.
You are listening to Guided Spirit Conversations. To reach Marla Goldberg or her guest today, you're invited to call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, I have the great fortune of sitting with my first spiritual teacher, Dr. AlixSandra Parness. And AlixSandra is a clairvoyant healer and master teacher. She has the amazing ability to find and hold and lift a group energy up, which was what we were just talking about before we went on break. She has a mystery school called the AlixSandra Parness School for Soul-Directed Advanced Energy Healing and the Mystery School for Divine Mastery. If you'd like to find out more information about AlixSandra, you can find her website at PARNESS.com, AlixSandra Parness. And you can find her on Facebook as just AlixSandra with an I, AlixSandra. So welcome back, AlixSandra.
Thank you. Oh, so good to see your smiling face.
Well, it's so good to see yours as well. I always just feel like, you helped me through so many, clear so many blocks, and heal so many wounds through school, that it was amazing. It took me a long time. I mean, it was I don't know if you remember this, but it was the 8th mod, and I cracked open like an egg and I wailed for the whole 5 days we were together. I mean, it wasn't even crying. It was wailing.
Yeah.
I don't think you had enough Kleenex in that room that could help me.
See, that's the way spirit comes in. We were just talking about the challenges we face. And so many people today are facing this challenge of the unknown, that we don't know what's happening, not only just because of the pandemic, but all of the orbiting satellites around that pandemic. And so you sit, a couple of things I really wanted to touch on was isolation.
Yes.
And when you're talking about the fear of the unknown, I know for myself, I'm planning on moving. I am packing up. I haven't got the house on the market just yet, but we will. And I really have to hold myself every single day in a happy place, because I don't have my friends anymore. I can't go we have art classes, but I'm not comfortable actually going into groups anymore. I'll go into the store at, senior times and that kind of thing. But I have just really had to work on myself a lot. And I want that message to go out, is that just because you've got everything you think you know, trust me, there's a lot we don't know.
Yes.
And that was, you and I were having the discussion about curiosity.
Yes.
When you're really on your spiritual path, you know it because you're curious about everything. You have to leave the arena of judgment. You really do. You've got to get out of the place where you're wrong and I'm right. Because when you're there, you're just not quite on the alignment path you need to be on.
Not only that, it's sticky. It's sticky, like mucky sticky.
Right. And so I wanted to give people some different things that I'm dealing with myself right now, and you are as well, all of us on this path, is isolation, number one.
Yes.
And I was watching the music awards last night, and it hurt my heart in one way. I mean, we're talking two sides of the coin here. I missed seeing all the people in the audience. I missed you know, the faces, the dresses, the gowns. I love that stuff. I'm a girl. I like that stuff. And yet we'll watch, my husband and I started watching football. Now, I don't care if there's anybody in the audience with football because it's action. And that's the word I want to say. We are missing action.
Yes.
So we're doing our best to come up with what we're doing now, Zoom and that to find some way to move past the, what's the word when you're just kind of stagnant, you know, because the lockdown, stagnant. The lockdown has kind of put a lot of us in a place where we're not really moving a lot.
It's like a big pause. We've been put on a big pause. And even though there's little more movement going on now, for the most part, our life has not gone back to its original way, you know, pre-COVID.
Nor will it ever.
Nor will it ever. But, you know, so one of the things that I share is YouTube. I'm a huge, because you can learn anything on YouTube. You can learn metaphysical classes. You can learn Tai Chi, Qigong. You can learn to speak French, Italian. You can learn to play piano on YouTube.
You can even find AlixSandra on YouTube.
You can, and me, my guided spirit
and
conversations.
Marla, there you are.
But I mean, everything is on YouTube, and so that's just, you know, so it's like stop watching the sitcoms and the reruns. If you and there's not great TV on, in my opinion, so then we do a lot of reruns. But going on to YouTube or reading a book, picking up a book and learning something new. That's why sourdough bread, they make these jokes about people are starting to learn how to bake sourdough bread because, you know, it's a process. So now people actually have the time to take the steps to learn the process. So
there's so many good things that have come out of all of this. The one other thing I thought we should touch on is, because we were talking about, you know, the anger and all of that, the people who are anti-mask. You know, I had to laugh at this group that went through, it was on the news yesterday through Target, screaming at everybody to take off their mask. You know, I have to say, I'm 80 years old, right? You know,
which is
that.
hard to believe. Yeah.
I know. But I'm fabulous in 80. That's what my son tells me. It's living a good life. I've lived a really good life. I've lived a spiritual life. I haven't had a lot of heavy worry in my life. But I really want to tell people that I don't want, if I came down with the COVID, there's a good chance I wouldn't pull through it at my age. And they're learning this. When you don't have good leadership trying to help you know what the right thing to do is, you have to find your leadership within.
Yes.
And that leadership inside of you comes from your heart. You and I know it as higher self, masters, but it's the same story as when Jesus walked on water. I want to go back to the fires and everything. He had a pure heart at that point. He could stop the waters, stop the fires. He could work with nature and be in that place. That's what we have to learn to do. You work with what's happening. You listen to the scientific community and you try and understand that we're all in this together. That is not a joke. Let me tell you, I'm nervous about moving out of Mesquite. We're a tiny little town. There is nobody here. We haven't even had one case of COVID because nobody's here. Right. I don't go to the casinos. I would never go in there. And I'm going to move to California where it's a hot spot. But I have my shield. And my shield says everything always works out.
Which is trust and faith.
Which is trust and faith that it's all good.
It's all good.
No matter what happens, it's all good.
What you're talking about, I call social consideration.
Yes, I like that term.
And I was talking to a gentleman when I was up north, and I don't know how we got on, but we started talking. He goes, "Well, I don't wear masks." And this guy was a biker, you know, like the leather vested, you know, and but he was a teddy bear. Like I read his energy, and he just was a teddy bear. And I said to him, I said, well, but you don't know what somebody might have. And he goes, well, then they shouldn't be out. And I said, well, look at me. I said, do you think I would have any issues? He goes, not at all. I said, but I do. I have autoimmune issues. I have asthma. I have things. I said, but I'm certainly not an invalid. I'm not staying at home. I'm going to live my life. I
Yes.
said, but I know that if you got me sick and you found out that you had gotten me sick, that you would be devastated. I said, the whole purpose of wearing a mask is to protect yourself, number one, and protect other people in case you're carrying something, because you don't want the karma of knowing that your refusal to do something that you could have avoided affected someone to the point that they weren't able to survive it.
Yeah.
You know, you would feel pretty horrible about that. And he looked at
Right.
me, he goes, yeah, you're right. Now, did he change wearing a mask? Probably not. But he heard a different point of view. And here's the most important thing. He didn't yell at me. I didn't yell at him. I didn't get angry at him. He didn't get angry at me. There was no negative between us. It was really a beautiful conversation of an exchange.
Yeah.
We exchanged each other's views. He heard what I had to say. I heard what he had to say. And we went on with our life.
But again, it's the fires. You see, I'm raging.
Yes.
I have a right to what? You can have a right to do whatever you want to do in your world, but you don't have a right to stop my world from turning,
Yes.
because you are, it's like somebody that has, I had a college friend who was a very famous singer, Judy Collins, and she got tuberculosis.
Oh,
Tuberculosis is worse than COVID ever thought of being. And she had to be quarantined for a very long time. Took her a long time to get over it. God bless her, she did. And I used to follow her all the time because she'd come in and out of Vegas every now and then. And I went to college with Judy Collins, you know. And she would be playing in the, you know, downstairs and everything for us. But when I learned that, I thought, it's the same thing. If you had a disease like that, but this COVID thing has become like a throwaway in some respects with people. That's just, oh, I hear somebody saying, well, if I get COVID, I'll get over it. Maybe, maybe not. It depends on your emotional place of where you are within yourself, Marla. That's what all of those healings always taught us, is that where am I with me? Forget with anybody else. Where am I with me? Am I in this I'm right and you're wrong kind of thing, and nobody's going to tell me what to do? They're like a teenager that's gone wild. You know, I'm not going to do anything you tell me to do. I'm going to take rebellious teenager. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So AlixSandra, do you have any suggestions or tips for people who might be dealing with some of these fears, like how they might settle themselves down or practice something like breathing, like a breathing tip to get them to relax and to release the fear and to just sort of start taking the baby steps to having faith and trust and living a less fearful life?
Boy, do I ever. And it's a lesson that my granddaughter taught me. My granddaughter lived with me for a long time, and she had a drug problem. She had a very difficult time pulling herself out of it. She didn't think she'd ever amount to anything. She was one of these kind of kids at that time, because drugs keep you from being able to know yourself. The drug has an entity of its own, and that's who you think you are. I gave her my book, Activate Joy, and I said, read my book. She did, and she'd come back and we'd sit in my office and she'd say, nothing's ever going to work out for me, Grandma. It's just never, it's just going to be my life. I'll die one day, blah, blah, blah. And I said, here's tip number one. Everything always works out. And I started to have her repeat that, because you've got two ends of the issue you're looking at. The fear place, which can have some people completely paralyzed.
Yes.
But if you can begin to say that to yourself, everything always works out for me. So Let 10 years pass, and all of a sudden, she gets arrested and put in jail, right? Now everything has to stop. So the entity is removed because it's not a possibility. She doesn't stay in jail very long. But what's even better was then she had to go to rehab for a year. Well, you take that entity of drugs away for a whole year, you start to think, your body becomes cleansed. And I watched this happen over the years. She never had a job, couldn't bring in any money. And then all of a sudden one day she met a guy who said, well, come on over and maybe I've got something for you. She got a job. And all the time the mantra, everything always works out. If people would just say that to themselves right now, even when I have my little worries here and there about moving to California, that's what I do for me. Everything is going to work out. It always does. And then you begin to see the bigger picture. She was just here. She does my nails. So I have these pretty sparkly nails. It's just something cute she and I have together. And she always goes back to that because this weekend was really powerful for her. Because finally, she's 39 years old, I think. And she said to me, you know, Grandma, it doesn't matter what I do. It's all going to be okay. I could move to the East Coast or wherever. And I keep being reminded, not only I remind myself, but other people too. Just keep saying that to yourself. You can have it written around on the walls. The other piece is to realize that you do have inner guidance. And that guidance is constantly taking you where you need to be, even if it doesn't look good. Look at those people we were just talking about, whole towns that are being devastated up north with the wildfires.
Right.
They have their families, most of them, some of them have lost family members, but it's going to work out. Whether you're here or you leave the planet, it's all going to work out perfect. And
you know what, Alexandra, we need to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk more about having faith and trust and believing, you're learning to believe in what you have to say, but we'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, great job. We're all clear. Back in a couple.
Thanks.
I'm pretty passionate about that one.
Well, you've seen it. Well, it's worked for you. You've seen it work for your granddaughter. I know for me, I had someone tell me you're exactly where you are for what you need to learn. And that's sort of that's my mantra. So now everything for me is, when something happens, it's like, okay, is this a lesson, a gift, an opportunity, or a combination? What is it? Why is this happening? Right. And what am I supposed to get from it? And that's my process in how I work through it and how I just, that. And, I learned Don Miguel Ruiz Sr., not taking everything personally. It has nothing to do with me. Somebody's projection onto me is not mine, it's theirs. Right. And I don't have to own it, especially if I don't want it or like it. It's like someone pushing an ugly dress on you and saying, you have to wear this. No, I don't.
Yeah.
It's
no, you don't. Thing. And you don't have to follow just people in a particular political arena. You don't have to follow. You have to follow your heart.
Right. That's it. And here's the thing, when we talk about Seth and the emotional body of the earth, his planet, and if we're looking at hurricanes and tropical storms as tears, do something to get the tears out. Do something to stop, to break up the repressed energy in your third chakra. And if it leads to crying, cry, let it out. I had a neighbor, so I always have a bat. Except I don't have it now because I gave it to my neighbor, and because she was helping me with something, and something came up, and I said, come here. And I gave her my bat, and I took her to my guest room. I said, hit. She goes, I can't do that. I said, all your strength, hit that mattress. She maybe took 4 or 5 swings. Yeah. And it came, she's like, but I don't cry. I said, but you need to cry. You need to break this energy up. Right. And release it, because she's holding, she's trying to be strong, but crying does not mean you're weak. Crying just means you're cleansing. in my
Right.
opinion.
Absolutely. No question about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But it,
think
it was
people
it it
go
was
ahead.
something to listen to Catherine just really have taken that so that now she can live her life in a much happier place.
And now she
All
would.
right.
Okay,
So
Nat,
sorry to interrupt, but we are
No,
still have to
no.
come back.
you're fine. But the great news is she's going to live a beautiful life because she got it.
Yes, she
Better
got
late
it.
than never. I got it late.
Yes. Well, but look at what you've done with it.
You are listening to Guided Spirit Conversations. To reach Marla Goldberg or her guest today, you're invited to call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. And if you're just tuning in, I'm here with Dr. AlixSandra Parness. And I'm not going to go into how she was my first teacher and mentor and she brought me down my path. I'm going to talk about how AlixSandra is a clairvoyant healer and a master teacher, and how she has this amazing ability to hold energy for individuals and groups alike. She has her school, the AlixSandra Parness School for Soul-Directed Advanced Energy Healing, and the Mystery School for Divine Mastery. And if you want to look up AlixSandra, you can check out her website at AlixSandraParness.com, and that's AlixSandraParness, or you can find her on Facebook under AlixSandra, again with an I. So welcome back. Before we get back into our conversation, it's charity shout out time. And your charity is very much along the message we're talking about today.
Yeah.
And it's UNICEF.
Yeah. My husband was not born there. He was born in Jerusalem, but he lived his young life in Lebanon. And what happened to me was he always tells me these beautiful stories about as a young boy, and he's going out into the countryside and how they go down to the water and catch fish and octopus and all those kinds of things. When the explosion happened
Recently
in Beirut and Yemen and all of those, and I started to see the devastation that is beyond words over there. I've done this a couple of times. I did it with Ellen and the food bank thing. So when I feel that pull, I want to give money. I have some money to give. So I called up right away and gave to UNICEF. And that donation led me into this humanitarian kind of space that I'm feeling now, to really pay attention to this big picture of our world, not just the little picture of your life or what's going on, but see if you can see through the eyes of higher consciousness that we're a very small family on this planet. And it's really important for us to follow our heart, as we were talking about before, and to feel the needs of others. And maybe I often say, every now and then I'll do this because I have so many students over the years. I'll just give somebody a call out of the blue. Oh, why are you calling me? I was just thinking about you, and sometimes that's so helpful for the person you're calling, but more for you, because then that opens your heart.
And it always happens at the time the receiver needs to hear from you.
Yes, always.
There's no, there are no coincidences. It's all synchronistic. And so, yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful way of being, and to be able to think of people. And it goes into what we're talking about, we didn't say these words, but it's about being more supportive of each other, being supportive of our environment. So,
Yes.
if we were more supportive of the environment, as we were talking about Seth and how the planet has its own emotional consciousness, maybe the fires wouldn't be as horrible and devastating.
Well, that's the point.
These storms wouldn't be as, I mean, we have category 5s now. How many category 5s have we had? 4s and 5s and it started in May instead of September.
Right.
It's if we pay attention to nature, it will always guide us.
Right.
It will always guide us. Well, you and I were talking about how important it is to release these repressed energies too, these emotions.
Right.
Well, which will also help the environment, as well as being, paying attention to our usage of things. But we repress so much, and believe me, I was the queen repressor. So, so, and at some point, your body can only hold so much before you're just going to explode and have some sort of a breakdown. So, it's better to self-care and release
Yes.
than to have to hold everything down.
There's lots of ways to do that. You were talking about, hitting something, punching something. Sing a song. I want people to go outside. Right now, you've got rain and I've got 105 degrees, beautiful sunny weather in Nevada, right? But even though we're in a pandemic, we can still go outside. I have a front porch and a back one, and I could sing a song.
Right.
And maybe somebody would hear it. Look at, you see these pictures in New York. Well, if you're not tone deaf, right?
Well, if you have
And-
these beautiful, you have a beautiful voice, AlixSandra, unlike me.
My voice is kind of gone, but I do want people to realize that singing releases energy and it also lifts your spirit.
Raises the vibration.
I don't think that it's a good idea to be in a small place singing, which is why on the music awards last night, everybody was in their own place. They were singing and playing, and it was a beautiful thing to watch. We can do that too. Just the idea of singing brings you into your heart. Find a song you like and just keep singing it over and over again. I want to go back to the idea of lifting energy. Yes. Because once you get into the place, you and I are in this place, both of us, we lift energy. It's what we do. But everybody can do that. I have a good friend of mine in the gallery, and she and I made really good friends. Her husband started to have cancer a couple of years ago and knew he wasn't going to be here very long. Father's Day, I was up in visiting my daughter, and all of a sudden a prayer came through me, and I knew he had passed that day. So when you get into this place, and I know you've experienced this, and I'll bet you a lot of your listeners have too, all of a sudden someone will come into your thoughts and you don't know why, but there is always a reason there. And when you just have a good thought about, gosh, I hope you're doing okay, sending you love. And that was my thought. I didn't honestly know that he had passed till I got home, but it was that Father's Day. And so it was like, I know that we are lifters of humanity. That's what we do. And everyone can do it. You and I are people that this has become our life. Yes. This is what we do. Other people, they go in and out of it, but it doesn't matter because you'll always be brought back. Because in this poem that I wrote, God is always breathing with me.
Yes.
I worked with nurses, I worked with doctors, and that helped them. That's how that all came about, was that one call where this person was so beside herself when the COVID was really bad in their hospital. And I said, I'm breathing with you. It just started happening. Well, you're lifting humanity saying that. Yeah. It isn't just that person that's hearing it. It's that those words are going out. I'm waiting for somebody to write a song, I'm breathing with you, because I know effect. I started it.
But it's the breathing effect, ripple effect, right? I mean, you drop that pebble talking about I'm breathing with you, which is support, which is compassion. Yes. It's understanding, it's coming from the heart. And, and the ring will get bigger because that's the way it works.
Right. So add to the I'm breathing with you, everything always works out. Everything always works out.
Absolutely. Always.
And that's a major key for me.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, and I hope and I pray that this conversation has helped the listeners, if they're feeling stressed or angst from what's going on, to just take a deep breath, to know that everything will work out for its highest and best good. Have faith, have trust, and just, live your life to the best way you can live your life.
And I always want to remind people too, the website our dear Teresa helped me build is really a pretty amazing website, because if you go to AlixSandraParness.com and go to the blog, every one of the, well, not every single one, but most of the recordings we did those 11 weeks are there, plus all of the writing that happened. Everything in those 11 weeks, starting in March 7 or something, or April maybe, I can't remember when we all started it. They're all recorded, and all of the writings that happened out of each of those weeks are there. And I just went back looking because I wanted this recording to be. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, honey. I've got to wind up. But please,
okay.
Everyone, check out AlixSandra's website, AlixSandra with an AlixSandra Parness.com, and listen to her recordings, because you'll be amazed, because they're beautiful and they'll lift you up and they'll help you work through whatever it is, because everything you need to hear will come when you need to hear it. And the people you need to talk to, etc. AlixSandra, as always, it is just, I feel so grateful and blessed that you're with me today. Thank you so much.
Always with you, Marla.
Thank you. And I want to thank everyone at Voice America and all you do to get the show up and running for me and supporting me. I want to thank Bridget for all she does for me. And I want to thank, bless her heart. I want to thank you, the listening audience, for taking the time out of your day, out of your lives, to be a part of this conversation. I hope and I pray that something that was discussed will resonate with you, as I know it will, and help you in your journey. And I want to just leave you with two things. Social consideration. Please be considerate of other people, because you don't know what might affect them.
Right.
And I'm going to leave you with this. As always, we, AlixSandra and I, are sending you love. We send you blessings. We send you gratitude. Please stay healthy, stay well. Prayers to those who are dealing with tropical storms, Sally, and to the fires and any other thing that's going on. Prayers to you all. Stay well.
God bless.
God bless.